Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the very first podcast for the AU4 Championship for 2026. My name is Daniel Loechel, and I'm with the voice of the AU4 Championship, Lindsay Muddle. Mate, welcome. It's been a long time coming, us putting this together, but with race week kicking off today, actually, when this goes live, no better time to start.
Yeah, absolutely, Daniel. It's good to be here. We've been talking about this since we went to Winton, and now it's coming to fruition. I'm excited to get talking about AU4 and what's coming up in the coming week.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic weekend. Obviously, we're at the Bend for the first of two visits for this season. Of course, we come back in August, but we're at the West Circuit this time around, and we're actually on KO as well. The series is on KO for the first time for 2026 and since it became AU4 Championship. But before we just talk about this weekend and what to expect, let's wind the clock back to the beginning of the season at Winton Raceway, Lindsay, which we saw an epic battle, and it's starting to form now as we head into round three, the battle between AGI's Jensen Marald and Tim Macro Racing's Marco Manson.
Yeah, I mean, how good is it, Daniel? You've got them tied at the top of the standings at the moment. We have them sitting on 125 points, tied up the top. That is absolutely monumental with only 3 rounds to go. We've got this round, the next round at the Bend, and then Sydney Motorsport Park. A lot can happen this upcoming round, but still so close up the top. Basically, no matter how this weekend goes, there's still going to be a championship fight in play.
Oh, absolutely, mate. And we've seen already this year. I'm expecting that to happen this weekend, and I can't wait to catch all the action this weekend. But so far, round one. Let's talk about round one. Of course, we had a very interesting weekend. Jensen was definitely the man to beat. For majority of the weekend, clean sweeping the pole positions. But we did have a Polish driver join the field.
Yeah, Boris Lizen. I mean, what an entry he was into the category back at Winton. And I mean, he drove absolutely phenomenally and he kind of just never sort of got the result he wanted. And then he's gone back over to Spain to compete in the F4 Spanish Championship and he's won rounds over in that championship. So he clearly had the means to be there and be up the top. But Jensen Marald proved to be a bit more challenging than he might have suspected. And then it all came to blows in the final race, race 3, where they had their unfortunate incident. And that is what set up Marco Manson to enter his name into the AU4 winner's circle. That is how he managed to take home race 3. And since then, his trajectory has been all but up.
Yeah, definitely. We saw that for sure. Obviously, you were commentating at the time when that happened, but Marco was definitely thereabouts. He obviously got race one, second position, race two, fourth, and then race three obviously takes the win. After that very, very wet race. Obviously, we saw the red flag. Unfortunately, Lana did have a bit of a moment, but let's talk about Lana for a little bit quickly because she's definitely on the rise. Round one, she was fighting for the podium. Round two, she was comfortably just outside the top five. So what is round three going to bring for her?
Honestly, heading into round 3, I'm not entirely sure what to expect, but I think that we could see Lana knocking on that 4th or 5th as she sort of has been already. She's got a lot of 5th and 6th place finishes, and if she really hooks it up around this West Circuit at the Bend, we could even see her snag a podium in one of the 3 races. There's a lot of potential there behind the wheel for Lana Flack. It just all depends on how she can cope with the pressure and end up in the right places at the Bend.
Yeah, for sure. Like she's been testing non-stop since Sydney, and actually from last year even. She's been testing everywhere, and it's been really, really cool to see her and her father, obviously, as part of the team, just tackling it against the big dogs of AGI and Tim Macro. But we've also got Jamie Lee Sue, who made a return to the series the previous round, but Waltech Motorsport made their debut previous round, but they're heading into the Bend with a brand new looking car.
Yeah, a very almost Alpine inspired looking livery there on Jamie Lee Sue's car, the blue with the pink. I think it looks absolutely fantastic and it's something different. It's almost a sort of a blend between an AGI sport car and Lana Flack's F4 Racing Australia car with the pink. It's pretty cool and it's going to stand out and I think that it'll look absolutely fantastic.
No, for sure. And obviously we've got heaps of new faces. But it's going to be interesting, of course. Marco hasn't been to the Bend before in a racing sense. The first time he actually took part, well, actually drove around the Bend was that test day he had a couple weeks ago, which was actually already on KO with the Formula Open series. But Jensen has definitely, local boy. Of course, this is his own home race, technically, being a South Aussie. He will definitely have that up his sleeve, claiming the victories in the Gen 1 class. But do you reckon that will help him at all against the fight against Marco?
I think it will for a couple of reasons, Daniel. And I think one of them is that he's very familiar with the circuit. He would have raced there probably more than any other circuit because he is so close by. He had that success in Gen 1 last year at the Bend, as you spoke about as well. He's very quick. I've spoken to other drivers in and around the paddock, and they think that he's going to be really, really strong at the Bend. And also speaking to him, he's really confident that with people behind him at his home circuit, that there's going to be a lot more confidence there. And having that sort of support network behind you at a racetrack is so, so important. And I think that is going to play a huge factor.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he had it easy at Winton Raceway. Obviously, he did really, really well, but you can just tell at Sydney Motorsport Park the pressure was a bit on. Marco definitely did put the pressure on Jensen, and you can definitely see that on track. He wasn't as strong as we have seen in the past, but hopefully, now that we've had a month to properly prepare for this round, I reckon he'll come back ready to fight and defend his position.
Yeah, they were testing just the other day over at AGI Sport. Jensen was in the car, so whatever he took away from that, I'm sure will be very helpful for him as well in the Gen 2 car. And as well for Jensen, something that he's quite often joked about now at this point. In fact, he made a social media post about it. His race starts. Those were the killers there for Jensen Marald. I mean, he was getting pole position in both races at Sydney. He got pole position in both races in Winton as well. And then he dropped off the start, and that was especially apparent at Sydney Motorsport Park, where he lost out into Marco Manson from pole position 3 out of the 3 races. That was absolutely detrimental to Jensen Marald's racing, and I think that he's really got to get a hold of that. And I think he's obviously been working hard, and we'll see how that pays off for him at the Bend.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, he recently redid his simulator at home, so I'm sure he's practicing hard for the Bend this weekend. But Marco Manson as well, before we move on to other drivers, he recently, well, when I say recently, a little while ago, he got announced he'll be testing with Roden, which is a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, it is, and that is the sort of reach that you can be expecting for a driver of Marco Manson's caliber and anyone inside the AU4 Championship. It's such a development pathway. It's sort of the building blocks that's going to take you overseas, and that is really cool to see Marco getting that sort of opportunity, and it's just a huge step for the category as well.
No, definitely, it shows how good the category is, like you said, and we saw Noah Killian, who recently got his first win in the F4 Italia series, and he's actually starting to get regular podiums and pole positions, which is really, really cool to see. Of course, he was the one to beat last season alongside Isaac McNeil. But it just shows how good and talented these young drivers are. Yes, they're 15. Yes, they're 14 or 16, but it doesn't matter. Once they got the helmet, the visor down, they're just superstars, and it's really cool to see. And I cannot wait for them to actually show their talent on the broadcast for KO this weekend as part of the Bend Championship Series, which is a cool, really, really cool initiative made by the Bend and KO to show off grassroots racing on your home televisions. It's going to be interesting to see who will be faster, actually, because last year, if we wind the clock back with Tim Macro Racing, they actually looked very pacey at the Bend with Harrison Dusk, who obviously isn't racing this season, but he was the man to beat for the opening round, claiming the first win. But then, of course, Isaac McNeil won last year. But of course, he's not here this time around. So the question is now, obviously, Jensen clean swept the weekend. He definitely is in contention to do well and clean sweep this weekend, maybe. But the competition has just skyrocketed compared to last year. So we could see the likes of Brock Burton, Angus Bales, William Beck, even, of course, AGI's newest Kiwi driver. It's just so many names in contention this weekend.
Yeah, there really is. I think that obviously all 3 of the drivers that won in the Bend in Gen 2 last year no longer here. They've moved on. And then the only person in that winners list from the Bend that's still here was Jensen, as you said, from the Gen 1 class. He clean swept both of them. He got all 3 races, and that's because he clean swept his whole time in the championship last year before stepping away for the final round because he'd already wrapped up the championship. That is the caliber of driver Jensen is, and you've got to imagine having that experience, having already clean swept 2 weekends at this circuit. He's got to go for it again, but he's going to have steep competition. I think other drivers you could see in around is Brock Burton, as you said. He did really well. He actually got a race win last year in the final race at Sydney Motorsport Park, so he's definitely no slouch. And another driver you could see in and around, of course, his championship rival, Marco Manson, but I don't think you can discredit, as you said, Will Beck either. There's a lot going on around the paddock, and another driver I want to keep a really close eye on, and I think he's going a little bit under the radar this year, Angus Bales. He's been driving absolutely spectacularly, there or thereabouts. He's been getting into some small little moments that have held him back in the overall championship, but when he's had pace, he's absolutely been there on the number and ready to fight.
No, absolutely. Angus has definitely been, and I've said this time and time again, he's definitely been a standout this season, coming from XL racing straight to Formula Ford, already making an impression in that Formula Ford, and now coming to Formula 4 as well. He got a podium as well in this season already, I'm pretty sure. So he's definitely off to a great start in his open wheeler career. And he actually, I believe, I could be wrong, his first test with Tim Mako Racing was actually at the Bend. So I'm curious to see if that gives him a little bit of an advantage heading into this round. Another standout that I reckon we should keep an eye on as well is Diago Stewart. Of course, young gun, only turned 15 the other week, which is crazy to believe given how fast he is. He obviously got a podium, his first national podium in the AU4 Championship at SMP. Do you reckon he'll be he'll be on a confidence boost heading into this weekend?
I think so, Daniel. I mean, he's been driving phenomenally. He's been there or thereabouts the whole time, and he's already done testing at the Bend, not just this last couple of weekends ago during the Bend Championship. You have as well. He did his first test same weekend as Angus Bales did at the Bend. You actually covered Diago that weekend with content with Ivan. That was quite cool to see. That was the first time I heard of Diago. So I think he's going to be riding high. He's got track time at this circuit already. And another driver we haven't yet mentioned, actually, a person who is currently third, the driver who is currently third in the Gen 2 Championship, Luca Casolo. He was really right there at Winton. He was giving Jensen a bit of a run for his money, and then he fell away in the mixed conditions on the wrong tyre. But he has been quite quick. He had a bit of a rough Sydney Motorsport Park round, but even then, when he showed up with pace, he had some pace. It was just the consistency that he had to sort of dial in, and I think that come to the Bend, a track where once you get into a flow, the consistency comes with it. I think that he could be quite fierce.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Luca goes, because obviously you say Angus was definitely a dark horse and one to watch this season, but Luca is definitely certainly AGI's driver to watch for sure, who's just sitting there waiting to take advantage. Obviously we saw that in Winton, like you said. He did really, really well, I must say. Obviously the tire strategy per driver was just very, very different that weekend. It really threw the strategy and threw the race around. But no, he's definitely one to watch this weekend, and I can't wait to see how he goes. Hopefully he can maybe get his first win, but it's definitely going to be a challenge between Jensen and Marco. They're definitely going to be at it, tying into this weekend. Xavier, I want to talk about him. Obviously, he's been improving as the season goes on. How do you reckon he's going to tackle this weekend?
I think he'll go well. As you said, he's been steadily improving. He had a bit of a rough Winton, having that incident out the gate in race one, and he had a bit of a problem with his finger as well because of that incident, and then he still came back and drove quite well at Sydney. He showed promise, but once again, for the second round in a row, got into a bit of a tangle with Will Beck up at turn 2, and that proved a little bit costly for him overall, but still then he showed glimpses of pace. He was in that top 5. He was fighting with Angus Bales and Brock Burton. So if he can just get a weekend hooked up together, he will be quite the threat. He's just been struggling to get the final result.
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. He's definitely is probably the most motivated I've seen him like the last 2 years. He's definitely pushing to do better and better each time he's out there. Even you see on social media, he's actually really giving it a good crack. Loves his palmies, so hopefully South Aussie palmies treat him well. I gotta say they're not too bad here. There's one at the Bend, which isn't too bad either. So you can't go wrong with one. But hopefully, he has a good weekend this time around. Sydney Motorsport Park. Obviously, he had a bit of a up and down weekend. His a couple wing issues with it coming off. As you can tell with your reaction there.
Yeah.
But hopefully, he has a much better weekend this time around.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, and I mean he's a self-described professional at sleeping, so I think that he'll have a palmy and then he'll go into a food coma until it's time to go driving. So we'll see how he likes the palmies in South Australia.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be interesting though to see how he does, because obviously he actually has admitted he's not a huge fan of qualifying. He knows he's actually a better racer, and that's very common with a lot of the drivers. Is qualifying might not be their best, whereas they know how to race, and Xavier definitely knows how to throw the car into the position and get the job done. So hopefully he can have a decent qualifying and get himself up there at the front, because he'll be one to watch, that's for sure. Let's head over to Gen 1. Of course, with AU4 this year and last year, we've got 2 classes. So for those who are listening for the first time, of course you're listening for the first time, this is our first podcast. But for those who have never seen AU4 before, welcome. It's split up to 2 classes. So Gen 2 is the current second generation of Formula 4 cars, the Tatis F421, which is used worldwide up until 2030. And then we've got Gen 1 class, which uses the old Miguel Ford Gen 1 Formula 4, which we've seen the likes of Liam Lawson, Oscar Piastri, Will Brown, Jay Nojada, all used once upon a time, whether it's here or international. But the older generation cars is the Gen 1, which is what we use for the 14 and up years of age, pretty much. And that definitely is a cool championship fight.
Yeah, it really is close. Jackson Culver came out swinging at Winton and did really, really well for himself to lead the championship, heading out of Winton with 65 points. But then striking back came Kobe Wilson at Sydney Motorsport Park. He showed up with a vengeance and took the championship lead, clean sweeping qualifyings and the whole weekend, with all 3 races being claimed by Kobe Wilson. He now leads that Gen 1 class by by 32 points over Jackson Culver. It's 142 points to 110. That's a huge swing in Kobe Wilson's direction. Lewis Gotch as well, sitting in third in the championship. He's been there. He's only 7 points behind Jackson Culver and got P2 in every race. He just needs to go one better to claim that top step. But speaking to a lot of those Gen 1 drivers, that's the class that I speak to probably the most around the paddock, with Kobe, Jackson, and Lewis. And they have all told me that Kobe is immensely strong at the Bend. He is very, very fast at that circuit, so I've been told he's once again the driver to watch heading into the weekend, and of course he is as the championship leader, but Jack Culver needs to have a strong weekend to close that championship back up.
No, for sure. And I'm not sure if Jackson has actually been to Tailem before. So it's going to, again, I could be wrong, but it's going to be really interesting to see how he goes around there. Obviously, he was very strong, like you said, at Winton Raceway. But yeah, no one could beat Kobe in Sydney. He was just another person, pretty much. He was in his own world, running his own race. Lewis, he's been improving quite a lot. Obviously, he's his first season in AU4 and he's definitely made a really good impression in the sport. And I can't wait to see how they go. Hopefully, we get to see some really, really cool battles and some tight battles. We saw a really tight battle between second and third at Sydney Motorsport Park, and Kobe sort of ran off. But I'm hoping we see a battle between the top 3 together.
Yeah, and what makes it all the more interesting for me, there's a few factors here heading into the Bend. Lewis, by the end of the 3 races, had 2 of the fastest laps of the race. And by the end of second qualifying as well, he was only a few tenths behind Kobe Wilson, within 2 tenths of a second there for the fight for pole position. So Lewis is only getting faster. He's learning. This is his first season driving a Gen 1 Formula 4 car. Kobe was here last year, so of course he has the leg up in experience at every track they go to, but Lewis catches up. He is such a talent, and he's so laser focused as well when they head into the weekend. So he's going to only get stronger over this weekend. But the other thing that fascinates me is that they share a garage and an engineer with Marie Parisi, and that makes it all the more contentious if they start battling, because they will be right there sharing an engineer. They compare data, they watch their laps together. So if something happens when they're fighting for this championship, it's going to be, well, the only way to put it is cinema. It's going to be really close up the top there between the two of them. But Jackson Culver as well, he's just been so fast. So that three-way fight up the top, that's going to go to the end of the season.
Definitely. And of course, we all know that AGI are currently the only team in the Gen 1 class. So they're all teammates. But yeah, the dynamic between the situation between Kobe and Lewis is very, very unique. And it's probably the most in regards to a teammate battle we'll see. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Of course, they're great mates as well, and they're constantly creating content together. So imagine if they have a bit of a on-track moment. It's definitely gonna it's gonna be interesting to see. But hopefully, clean racing. Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be like that. Knowing Lewis, he definitely makes some cool content.
Lewis already has the full carbon helmet.
Yeah, he's already set. He's got the script.
Already saving the weight. Yeah. He's already saving the weight on the helmet.
Yeah, that's it. So, no, I can't wait to see how that battle goes this weekend. But we've got a new recruit as well, I believe you said, Lindsay. So that's going to be really, really cool to see another face in the AU4 paddock.
Yeah, I haven't yet seen the confirmed entry list, but I was informed that we'll see Rickson Salvino out on the grid in the Gen 1 class in the AU4 Championship heading into round 3. So probably too late to mount a championship charge, missing the first 2 rounds, but still, I've been told to keep an eye on him by both Lewis and Kobe. Apparently, they've heard that he is quite quick, so he could ruffle some feathers in this 3-way championship fight. If he can start stealing podium places off of these 3, or even race wins if he's that fast, that could definitely change the dynamic of this championship fight.
Yeah, he can certainly make an impression, that's for sure. It's never too late to make an impression. Obviously, we are halfway into the championship now, so like you said, it is a bit tricky to make a, challenge for the win, but you can still challenge for race wins. With that being said, let's dive into the fact that we're racing this weekend. Obviously, the Bend West circuit we're using this time around. I think next time in August we're using the International. Which is going to be really cool. But I think the West is my favourite layout around the Bend. Personally, and the best part is, Lindsay, we are on KO Sports for the first time.
Yes, we are, Daniel. The two of us in the commentary box. It is going to be, well, a fun weekend, to say the least. We don't just get to do our little pit lane walk and laugh as we have outtakes. This time we're going to be the ones behind the mic, and, well, hopefully, and no, not hopefully, it will be a lot of fun for the two of us, and I think that it'll create some interesting conversation. And instead of going into the pit lane walk and you're like, I didn't see the race, I was filming, you'll be there and you'll know what happened.
Exactly. I'll actually be able to work out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not that I don't anyway, but
yeah, he's a professional, guys. He has a little we have a little chat beforehand, and he's like, okay, I've got it. And then we start talking, and I start talking about a moment in the race, and he's like, did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so basically I come to you and you sort of tell me what happened, basically. No, this is going to be really, really cool. I can't wait. Best part is, obviously, in the past, we've seen Formula 4 Australia, part of the supercar sport category. So they've been on Fox Sports before in the past, but this time on KO Sports, the AU4 Championship will be the main event. At least that's the plan anyway. So it's going to be really, really cool to put these guys in the spotlight that they deserve. It's going to feel electric. It's going to feel like I want to treat it like a Formula 1 event. That's how cool I want to make it. And of course, us in the box together, it's going to be a lot of fun. That's for sure. So you can catch all the action there on KO Sports as part of the Bend Championship Series. There's also Formula V. There's Formula Open and SA Prototypes and a couple more other cool categories as well. So it's going to be a really, really cool weekend. But, of course, the main thing we're talking about here is AU4, and this championship is going to be just epic to watch, and it's going to go down to the wire as we head to Sydney Motorsport Park for the final round in September.
It is going to be absolutely incredible. I can't wait to be on KO Sports with you, Daniel. It's going to be electric. It's going to put so many eyes on the category that normally probably wouldn't see it. It'll pop up for people who just like motor racing. If they boot up KO, they'll see it there and they might go, "Oh, what's this?" And then they're watching some of the best open wheel racing in Australia with the Australian Formula 4. It is just going to be so cool to be around it. You've already been around the KO sports scene. I haven't. I'm going to be the newcomer there. I'm sure you'll be introducing me to a lot of people, but yeah, I just can't wait to get into it. It's going to be an awesome weekend of racing.
No, absolutely, mate. It's going to be sick. And the fact, like, again, I said it before, but the fact that we got grassroots racing on TV, it's just really cool. We saw it with the XL Nationals, how big that was and how cool it felt. We got so many cool comments. So hopefully we get more comments like that for this weekend. But and the cool thing is, right, is growing this category. The Adelaide Motorsport Festival, for example, Jensen was there at the festival, and so many people checking out the car. So many dads telling their kids what that car is, because everyone, you see the halo, you see the wings, and you're like, that's a Formula One car. If you haven't seen racing before. Theoretically, it looks like that to some degree. It's just a lot slower, but it's a place where people go to get to Formula One, and that's exactly what AU4 is. And the vision behind AU4 is to get Australians into Formula One, or get ready for to compete worldwide. So hopefully we get some more fans of the series this weekend. And of course, trackside access is free for all spectators. So you can literally bring your friends, bring your family over. I think the weather is going to be okay. Don't quote me on that, because I'm no weather person. Because every time I say it's going to be okay, it starts bucketing down. So in that case, it's going to rain. So hopefully I'm manifesting that.
We've had rain every single time we've gone to an AU4 round this year, Daniel. We had rain at Winton every single day. Winton was fun. We filled our shoes with water after trying to do the last day recording, running around into Ivan's car and then trying to get out of the car in the river.
Yeah.
And then you get to the test on Thursday, you're like, oh no, it's nighttime, and it's absolutely soaked.
Mm-hmm.
And then it did clear up, admittedly, but still, we just haven't been able to escape the rain in the AU4 Championship this year.
No, but it definitely brings out some talent in the drivers as well. Obviously, Winton was probably the worst of it, because majority of the field was in slicks. I'm pretty sure everyone was pretty much slicks on the Sunday in that race, when it just started bucketing down and towards the end of the race. It just shows how talented they are. Of course, a lot of those drivers that was the first time they ever experienced the wet in a car, in a race scenario as well. So it's just so cool to see, and I can't wait. Hopefully it is dry, because I just for the sake of everything, I hope it's dry. Tailem is quite windy occasionally. Like it's actually occasionally. What am I trying to say here? It's quite windy in Tailem. So that's going to be interesting and curious to see how the drivers tackle that. But mate, I can't wait. Do you have any? But before we wrap up this podcast, do you have any expectations, any predictions heading into the weekend?
I'm gonna go. I'll make some predictions for both classes. So I think that this weekend we'll see Jensen come back and land on the top step once again in AU4, and I think that he'll get 2 out of the 3 races. I think Marco will still claim 1, and I think Jensen will get pole in both qualifying sessions. And then in Gen 1, I think we'll see more Kobe Wilson magic. I don't know if he'll clean sweep the weekend. I'm going to say he's going to get 2 out of 3 again. And I'm going to be bold. I'm not going to say Jackson Culver will claim the other win. I'm gonna put my hand down, and I'm gonna put some hope into Lewis Gotch here. I think he might be able to get one of the 3 races. I'd love to see him land on the top step.
Yeah, no, he's definitely my wild card for the weekend for Gen 1 is for Lewis to get his first win at Tailem. I reckon he has what it takes to get there. But yeah, Kobe's just so fast at the moment, so who knows? We might see a Kobe clean sweep, but we might be surprised. In terms of Gen 2, it's a bit hard to predict. Obviously, Jensen has, he's got confidence, obviously claiming the wins at the Bend last year in Gen 1, but a lot has changed since then. Obviously, the competition has improved substantially, and it's a lot tighter at the front as well. Of course, Marco is definitely not messing around, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm actually, in terms of wild cards for Gen 2, probably Angus Bales is my wild card for a podium or even a potential win as well. But, as a local homeboy, I got to go with Jensen as the one to look out for. But as a commentator as well, and as media, not to be biased or anything, I definitely just hope we have a really cool battle between just Marco and Jensen for the championship.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just to spin back to that wild card, I forgot to do a wild card for Gen 2. I would agree. Angus Bales or potentially Brock Burton could get in and amongst it. And I think that they could take one of the 3 races in Gen 2 as well. So I think that that's going to be quite the prospect, and I'm excited to see. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome weekend of racing, Daniel. I can't wait to be in the commentary box with you. I can't wait for everyone to see how it goes at the Bend. There's so many unknowns, so many variables, so many battles to keep track of as well, and plenty of content over on Let's Talk Motorsport as well to keep up with. So there's going to be a lot going on. We're going to be very busy in about 4 days, Daniel. So it's going to be flat out.
I'm going to be busy from tomorrow, basically.
Oh no,
Because
you've got to do more work.
yeah, well, we've got to prepare the color pieces for KO as well, which is really, really cool. So we're going to make sure we can headline AU4 as much as we can. Of course, we got the work with AU4 as well. So it's a massive week, but it's going to be epic from start to finish. Like, I can't wait to just have everyone at the track. I can't wait to be there for the first race of the weekend. And qualifying as well is going to be electric as well. I'm not too sure in terms of broadcast when that begins. But it'll be really, really cool if we can do that. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. But still, qualifying will be one to watch as well. It's always exciting. And a very unique quality format for AU4 as well. Of course, we've got 2 back-to-back quality sessions. One determines race 1. The second determines race 3. And, of course, the fastest laps from race 1 determines the grid for race 2. It's a very unique system, Lindsay.
Yeah, I really like the system though, actually, Daniel. I think it's turned out to be quite fascinating because as well, you've got to pick which qualifying session you want to push in. I know we've seen a lot of double poles, but if you look up and down the field, there's a lot of discrepancy because a lot of people go hell for leather in qualifying 1 and then they get to quali 2 and they don't have enough tyre to do the same type of push lap again, or they come into quali 1, take it too safe and go, oh, I could push harder. They come in, talk to their mechanics and engineers while they have that brief little intermission between the 2 qualifyings, and then they go hell for leather in the second session and they climb their way up. So it creates a lot of variables, and the fastest lap in the race as well, that changes the grid entirely because slipstream comes into play, strategy comes into play. When they've pushed in the race comes into play, it means you get a big mixed grid for race 2.
Definitely. It also pushes people to do better in race 1 as well. You want to be faster. Like, if you're not having a great race, then they just it gives them opportunity to focus on maybe getting a good position for the second race. But then again, like you said, especially around Tail and Bend, with the straight being about 900 meters long or so, or at least a kilometer long, it's definitely slipstream is going to be a massive factor for the Bend Motorsport Park. But Lindsay, I can't wait. It's going to be an epic weekend of racing. Of course, we'll be there, but make sure you guys are there as well, whether you're on the couch watching from KO Sports or you're actually trackside in South Australia. It's going to be an epic weekend from start to finish. Lindsay, thanks for joining me, mate. It's been an epic start to our podcast for AU4 Championship. Can't wait to do more. Hopefully we'll have some drivers here in the future as well. It's going to be cool to have a proper convo with them. But Lindsay, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, just keep your eyes on the championship heading into this next week. It'll be myself and Daniel on the KO broadcast this weekend. There's going to be a lot of racing action to go around, so don't miss it. Come trackside if you can, and I can't wait to see everyone there.
Yeah, it's going to be epic. And obviously be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like as well. Follow AU4 Championship on social media as well, and stay up to date with all the racing action as well. And we'll see you next time for another podcast, and we will see you as well trackside this weekend at the Bend Motorsport Park.